Hello, Gemini risings. Welcome to our monthly zodiac reading for the month of June 2025. As always, we are going to pull an overall energy theme for the month for you guys. We are going to pull tarot for each week. We will clarify that with more tarot, as well as correlate those messages to the astrological transits occurring those weeks. And then we will wrap it up with some additional oracle guidance. So let's see what Gemini risings need to know for the month of June. Reflect on your truth. Whenever I hear the term reflect on your truth, it essentially means like doing a little bit of like self-reflection, basically, because you're not going to be able to reflect on your truth if you don't know your own truth. And in order for you to know your own truth, you're going to have to do some of that self-reflective work. What do you stand for? What do you believe? And this is without the influence of other people, right? What are your core values, basically, right? Who do you want to be? What type of person do you want to be in the future? You need to reflect on your own truth, okay? And it might mean that you guys need to be mindful of what you're saying. Are the things that you're saying, are you saying them just to say them, or are you saying them because you actually believe what you're saying, right? So let's see what Gemini risings need to know for the month of June. The Tower here in the first week. There's a reason that you need to reflect on your truth, and it's because you're about to have a tower moment. And I don't mean that in a way to scare you or in any way that matter. But tower moments reveal unexpected changes or unexpected revelations, right? Like new ideas, truths being revealed, something that kind of shakes up your sense of self or how you view the world, right? This is the week that we have Venus moving into the sign of Taurus. Venus is the planet of love, relationships, beauty, money, and what we value. Taurus is one of her home signs, so she's very comfortable here. With you guys, this transit is occurring in a very challenging house. It is occurring within your 12th house. So the 12th house governs things like mental health, substance abuse, hospitalizations. It governs things like the subconscious, faith, our spirituality. It governs things that we put and hide away, right? We hide these things away. And for you guys with Taurus sitting in your 12th house, your sense of value and your sense of wealth is directly tied to your mental health and maybe even how you feel about yourself, right? So it could be that with the Tower, something kind of unexpected happens and it forces you to kind of take a step back, and it's going to trigger that 12th house energy. It's going to trigger your mental health. It's going to trigger your faith in your spirituality. It could even trigger wounds, things of the subconscious, right? It could be something from the subconscious that comes up and becomes a new realization, and it kind of shakes things up for you a bit. Here in the second week, the Five of Cups. Feeling a sense of disappointment, a sense of regret, or even a sense of loss. Here in the second week, we have Mercury moving into the sign of Cancer. Mercury is thoughts, ideas, communication, and messages. It's moving into the sign of Cancer, which is your second house. Okay, so your second house is material possessions, financial assets or financial investments, money, and again, self-worth, right? It also represents our values and our belief systems. It could be that this realization comes with a very disappointing truth around your sense of value, right? Because we're still talking about Venus and Taurus energy. And Venus and Taurus energy traditionally governs the second house. So this is a lot of second house energy that's being activated. So this has a lot to do with finances, money, and your value systems. Okay. So whatever gets shaken up here in the first week leads to this kind of place of melancholy almost here in the second week. Again, this is the week that Mercury is moving into the sign of Cancer, so you could be receiving messages that leave you feeling a little disappointed. You could have a lot of thoughts that are reflecting on what happened here in the first week. On the and on the 9th, we have Jupiter moving into your second sign. So if this is a lot about to do about finances, financial investments, Jupiter is a very expansive planet. It's a very abundant planet. It represents growth, abundance, attainment, and expansion. And it's moving into that second house. So you could find that ultimately, even though you're feeling maybe your value systems, what you place value in, is shaken up a little bit. Ultimately, I think Jupiter moving into your second house is going to kind of ease that tension. It's going to maybe ultimately, I don't want to say put a band-aid over it, but it's going to help heal whatever that is. On the 11th, we have a full moon happening within the sign of Sagittarius. Full moons are a buildup and a culmination of energy. And when that energy peaks, it can be like a bubble that's bursting. The full moon cycles have the tendency to activate our emotional state. And that's why people around full moons become a little bit more emotionally reactive. Sagittarius for you guys sits in your 7th house. This is your house of business contracts, romantic and long-term partnerships. Okay. So this could be something that gets a little bit shaken up, maybe even gets revealed here around the full moon. Here in the third week, the Knight of Swords in reverse. Maybe you are hesitant to take action on something. Maybe you feel like you need to discover more information, or you're hesitant to speak on something. This is the week that we have Mars moving into the sign of Virgo. Mars is the planet of action, aggression, war, violence, power, and control, and desire. Mars moving into the sign of Virgo. Virgo for you guys sits in your 4th house. This is your house of home. This is your house of the mother, house of your emotional safety, right? This is where we feel, for you guys, Virgo is the sign or the energy that helps you feel stable. It brings you a sense of security in a way, security and stability and safety. For you guys, Mars moving in here with the Knight of Swords in reverse, it could be that you're trying to really reflect on that truth before you make any action on saying what you think or you feel, which is a good thing, right? When we're aligning this transit with this energy, with the Knight of Swords in reverse, these two actually work well together, because you don't want to say something that you can't take back. You don't want to say something that is going to be reckless and impulsive and end up hurting another person that you care about, right? So you're trying to, in the third week, it looks like you're trying to be mindful of the things that you're saying and the things that you're thinking. Let's see, this is also the week that Cancer season starts. So anytime we shift into a new season with a new sign, the themes and qualities of that sign tend to take center stage. And so with the sign of Cancer, this is like nurturing, kindness, and family. So here, that's going to kind of take center stage. Here in the last week, we have the Magician in reverse. So the Magician in reverse can represent that There is a masculine energy that is being a little manipulative. It can represent that you are blocking your own growth, or you're blocking your own manifestations for one reason or another. Or it can represent that maybe someone around you is trying to control and manipulate, right? Maybe they're trying to obtain, or maybe you're trying to obtain a certain outcome, and you're trying to move these pieces around to ultimately make that outcome happen. Whereas when the magician is direct, he doesn't need to do that, because he's aware that everything happens in divine timing. He's aware of his ability to manifest the results that he wants. So there's no need for him to control anything, right? He is the magician. He knows that his words create reality. And so he is able to do exactly what he wants and what he thinks. But when he's in reverse, he doubts that ability. And so he begins to control and manipulate things in hopes of a certain outcome. Oh, this is the week that we have the new moon within the sign of Cancer. New moons are an opportunity to set intentions. They are a blank slate to write a new story for yourself. And within this week, with the magician in reverse, it could be that the new moon in Cancer is an opportunity for you to begin to have more control and say over your material possessions, your finances, and money, right? Because we're focusing on the second house here, and that's what the second house governs. So let's see. We also have on the 26th, Mercury, the planet of thoughts, ideas, communication, and messages, moving into the sign of Leo. This is your third house. This is your house of communication, right? So you don't have to manipulate anything here in this fourth week. All you have to do is speak it, and it will come to fruition, right? Your third house of communication, the house that you traditionally govern, is being activated. Here we have the magician, someone who is ruled by Mercury. You don't have to manipulate anything, okay? But given how the week has unfolded, you're going to feel like maybe you don't have a choice. When in reality, I don't know where he's supposed to go, but he definitely popped out. The Knight of Cups. Knights are the action takers of the tarot, and the Knight of Cups takes action that is heart-led. It is heart-centered, right? His intentions are very, very pure. And I don't know where he's supposed to go, but he definitely popped out. Like, it wasn't a bunch of cards, it was just the one. And anytime that happens, I take notice of those messages. The Tower, the Lovers in reverse, and the Six of Wands. Okay, so for you guys, I think that this is kind of like the energy of the full moon building up, because here in the first week, the Tower moment is also paired with the Lovers in reverse. So this is an issue around relationships, okay? You could feel like you are not seen or heard or really valued for the work that you're putting in, or for what it is that you're trying to help create. Maybe you feel like there is an imbalance that is happening within the relationship, right? It could be a power struggle, could be that there's a sense of codependency that's happening. Again, your 12th house is being activated. So just be mindful that if this occurs, make sure that you're not self-sabotaging, because the 12th house is about hidden enemies. But most of the time, that hidden enemy is ourselves. We are our own worst enemy. Okay? So if there is an imbalance within the relationship, you can communicate. I feel like I'm not seen and valued for what I bring to the table. You can communicate that. That would turn the Lovers direct. Making choices that is for your highest good. The Lovers is associated with Gemini energy, right? Two bees, two people. Cross-pollinate. You guys govern communication. What is the foundation for a healthy relationship? Communication, right? If you don't feel seen and valued, you need to voice that. Okay? But I think what happens is that the Tower brings this realization that there's an imbalance within the relationship and maybe you don't feel seen and appreciated. Okay? And it is time for maybe you and your partner, if you have a partner, to voice that. Okay? If this is not involving a relationship, this Tower moment is realizing where you put others above yourself, and that is why you do not feel appreciated. It's why you feel like you're not successful. You're like, I put in all of this work towards all of these things, but I'm never successful. I never achieve what it is that I want to achieve. Again, this is activating your 12th house, your house of self-sabotage. It is time for you to reflect on your truth, and it is time for you to take accountability in the part that you play in how you feel. Okay? I know, I'm sorry if that sounds very harsh. I don't mean to, but that's just kind of the way it is. Here, the Five of Cups is, look at that, the sun. The sun will come out. And the Two of Swords. This almost feels like you are masking here in the second week. And what that means is that you're wearing a false mask. You're pretending to be happy when in reality, you're actually feeling quite melancholy. And there's a choice that you need to make. There's a decision that you need to make. And you're trying to avoid it, which is why you're pretending to be happy when in reality, these two energies are the dominant ones. Like your emotions are feeling very, very heavy, right? There's a choice that you know you need to make, but you're kind of avoiding it. Okay, that's why we have the Two of Swords, like the crossing of the arms. It's like, I'm blocking this off. The blindfold over the eyes. I don't want to have to acknowledge this issue. I'm going to avoid this at all cost. Right? And it's probably because your emotions are feeling very overwhelming. Even with the Two of Swords, there's a lot of water in the background, which represents an emotional tie to this card. And if I'm not mistaken, this is like Moon in Libra. So this probably, again, still has a lot to do with relationships. Like you need to make a decision when it comes to the relationship, potentially. But you're pretending that you're happy. You're acting like you're happy. You're acting like everything is all good. But under the surface, these emotions are still very, very much there. And they are still very heavy. Here, the Knight of Swords in reverse. The Five of Cups again. And the Seven of Pentacles. Okay. So you're being very cautious as to what you're saying and the actions that you're taking, right? Because it's almost like you're now very aware that your emotions are still feeling very heavy. And instead of masking that, it's almost like you're kind of being like, look, this is how I feel. I know that I need to work through this. I'm going to focus on what it is that I want to invest. If you're focusing on what you want to value, the Seven of Pentacles is all about patience, and it's all about tending to the garden that you've planted, right? And Pentacles, things around your health, your financial stability, your self-worth and your self-value, your value systems, your career. These are all things that are governed by Pentacles energy. Like it's very much your tangible reality. And the Seven of Pentacles is like, I'm tending to this garden that I've planted. I'm tending to this garden that I've planted. But the Knight of Swords is saying, like, you're just being very cautious about what you say and do, because there's still this heaviness. There's still this sense of regret and disappointment. And kind of, like I said, melancholy that's still very much present, probably due to what's happened here in the first week. And you're just essentially, I think you're doing exactly what the energy is directing you to do, which is reflecting on your truth, right? And for you guys, it's ultimately about paying attention to how your choices lead to where you are, right? What choices have you made that have led to where you are? Here in the fourth week, and again, this being with Mars and Virgo, this is your house, this is your home. So again, maybe planting those seeds around tending to what you value within your home life. This could be with family, financial stability and security and safety, your health, because your health directly impacts those around you. If you're not healthy, it's going to take a toll on you financially and stuff like that. So it could be your health as well. Like I said, this week, it looks like there's this kind of slight shift into a much more grounded perspective. Here in the fourth week, the Magician in reverse, the King of Pentacles, okay, and the Three of Swords. You could be, so for those of you who are in a relationship, and this is how it's playing out, like I said, here in the second week, there's still very much of like disappointment. You're feeling very melancholy, but you're pretending that you're happy. Maybe here in this third week, you're not very vocal. You're just trying to focus on the things that you value. But here in this fourth week, it's almost like this heartache that you feel with the Three of Swords, because this represents heartache, separation, or loss, same thing that we see here, is directing you to ultimately manipulate the energy. You're pretending to be the King of Pentacles. You're pretending to be someone who is financially secure, someone who feels like, very responsible, someone who's very stoic, someone who's very grounded, someone who's very focused on stability and security, someone who invests wisely with their time, their energy, their mental and emotional space, like all of that. They invest their resources very wisely. And as a result, he's achieved the point where he's very comfortable, he's very content, he's very satisfied with where he is in life. But it almost seems to me with the Magician in reverse that maybe that's a front. That maybe like you're still very much heartbroken, but you're manipulating the scenario to make it look like this is who you are. Not that who you can't be or that who you shouldn't be, but maybe you don't, like your emotions are not matching with the portrayal. And that does very much go in line with Gemini energy. Gemini is represented by the twins, which is represented by duality, right? There are two sides to your energy, two sides to that coin. There are two faces to that same personality. And that's kind of what I feel like is going on, is that right now you are pretending that everything is okay when in reality you're very, very upset and very kind of heartbroken. Okay. And it could be that you're allowing this heartbreak to block your manifestations. If you're trying to manifest this life right here, if you're trying to manifest stability, security, respect, if you're trying to manifest this life for yourself, financial security and comfort, then you may have to separate from certain things. You might have to part ways with whether that is a person, a relationship, an idea, your idea of the future, or your ideas of what it is that you want. You're going to have to separate from something if you want to achieve this. This is what you're trying to manifest, but your heartache is blocking that. Okay? The Three of Swords keeps sticking out to me. I feel like there's just so much going on with it. This is definitely a month for you guys to do a lot of internal work. If you're doing shadow work, now's a good month to do that. If you're doing like self-reflection and personal growth, now is the time to focus on that. I already shuffled these. Here in the first week, emotional baggage. Whatever it is that you're carrying around, emotional baggage, whether that is frustration, disappointment, like I said, not feeling supported, not feeling seen or heard, or not feeling like you're worthy of achieving what it is that you want to achieve, all of that is going to come to the surface. It is going to come to the surface, probably in the form of a conversation or words or idea. And it is, you are going to realize how unbalanced things are, and maybe where the choices, like I said, where you've been self-sabotaging basically. And that's either going to come in the form of, like I said, a realization for yourself, or it's going to come in the form of a conversation with a romantic partner. Okay? But emotional baggage, right? Your 12th house is being activated, and that is where we hide. That is where our skeletons in our closet hang out. That's our 12th house. Okay? Here in the second week, manifesting magic. You're feeling disappointed because of the conversation or whatever happened in the previous week. Like I said, you're putting on this very happy face, but in reality, you know you need to make a decision. You know that you need to make a choice. Here we've got choices. The Lovers represents choice. So does the Two of Swords. It's a choice. You've got a choice to make. Are you going to continue moving on the same path? Or are you going to reflect on your truth and begin actually manifesting the life that you want? Healthy boundaries, very nice with the Seven of Pentacles. Maybe what's happening, instead of taking impulsive action on what's happening, and like I said, acting on every thought or impulse that you're having, it's almost like a reflection, like you're still reflecting back on the last 2 weeks. And as a result, it's slowing your energy down enough to where it's almost like you're pacing yourself. You're putting in these boundaries with your finances, with your physical health, with your relationships. Like I said, you're putting boundaries on your own value systems. Not necessarily, I think, with other people, but more so with yourself. And as a result, these are going to be very healthy boundaries. Prioritize reflection. This is what this month is all about for you. Reflect on that truth and prioritize the reflection. What are you willing to sacrifice to achieve this manifestation? What are you really willing to sacrifice to achieve that goal? This is the month for you to ask yourself this. And I think this Knight of Cups is revealing itself. It's like, this is how you take action towards living a more heart-centered and heart-led life. You reflect on your truth. You focus on your manifestations. You put in healthy boundaries with yourself and with others. And you do the work. So I truly hope this helped, Geminis. This is a very powerful reading, and I truly hope it helped. So I hope you guys have an incredible month, and we will see you next time.